It's the only time in my career I've been in the game and thought, we can't do anything. That's what it felt like. And they were that good. They had us like on a roundabout, continuous, just like flying about, dizzy. I remember me and Emmanuel standing at Wembley and just, you have that sometimes you have a look at each other during a game. And it's like, you haven't got to say a word, but
yeah.
We're getting pumped.
Gosh.
We're getting pumped.
We'll get back to Rio and Gary and Roy and all the gang in just a quick second. But remember, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And remember, if you've got something to say, if I say something in this video, if one of the team says something in this video that you disagree with, that you agree with, please put it in the comments. And I want you to think about, while you're watching this, what could that great Manchester United team have done to have combated that great Barcelona team? Because in the video, they do mention that that was almost a defining moment. The 2009 final, anyway, between Barcelona and Manchester United in Rome. Because in that match would determine who would be the greatest team of that era. Certainly of that era. And obviously Barcelona won and they became the best team of that era. And that's fair enough. But as I'm going to lay out in this video after the clip, it wasn't as cut and dried as one might remember. And I'm going to give my thoughts on what Manchester United could have done to have combated that Barcelona team. Anyway, here's the gang.
Going back a little bit before that, the period from 2006 to 2011 is Manchester United's most successful period ever, in the sense there was four title wins and 3 Champions League finals. And the greatest team of all time is now, widely recognised as being that Barcelona team that we played twice in the Champions League final. Do you ever look back at those 2 matches and you're smiling now? Because obviously I was there, I think, for both of them in terms of hearing the sort of team talks. I retired on the second one and was still in the dressing room though. Do you look back at those things and think, that would have been us? We'd have been the greatest team of all time if we'd beaten Barcelona in them 2 games. What do you reflect upon those 2 games and how, what could we have done differently?
Scored more.
That Barcelona team?
They were too good. Seriously, they were just like that. That's it. Like, it almost gives me a little bit of like, what's the word where you go? It takes the sting out of it a little bit that they were actually that good. If we get beat by a team that's in and around us, we should have done a bit more. Listen, they took all our weapons off us, and we went to a war with no guns, no knives. Like, that's what it felt like. It's the only time in my career I've been in the game and thought, we can't do anything. That's what it felt like. And they were that good. They had us like on a roundabout, continuous, just like flying about, dizzy. I remember me and Emmanuel standing at Wembley and just, you have that sometimes you have a look at each other during a game. And it's like, you haven't got to say a word, but
Yeah.
We're getting pumped.
Gosh.
We're getting pumped. And can't do nothing about it.
Who was their forwards then, the front 3?
Was it Pedro, Messi?
one side. Messi was the false number 9 then and just didn't play nowhere near
David
us.
Villa.
And David Villa.
It was one of the
Pedro was the one.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, because without the ball, he was a trigger.
Behind,
trigger, run behind, but the trigger, as soon as they lost the ball, bang, he was like, they were so aggressive. All 5'5", aggressive, just take the ball off you.
I always
before
remember
the game, they were saying United would have an advantage because it's at Wembley. Kind of home.
I remember when the teams got picked, and I was at home, obviously desperate to see Barcelona win it, but I remember looking at the Man Utd team going, wow.
Very good
like
team.
Giggsy played centre, it was
That's
like
right,
4-4-2. Giggs was in centre midfield, I think, with Carrick.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
You're not getting the ball
even if
back.
you had Roy Keane and Brian Robson at the peak in a 2 on their own in there,
run around.
You get run around.
4v2 in there.
And this is like, obviously Giggsy and Carrick, great players. And I always remember Wayne scored just before half-time. And me watching it, I was thinking, because if you're getting beat 1-0, it's hard to go more defensive, if you know what I mean. And I was watching that thinking, the Rooney goal means it gives you a chance to actually get another midfield, or move Wayne wide and bring someone else in, just go 4-5-1, and you can do that at 1-1. And then you come out second half and it was the same, and I was like, oh my God.
You need about 9 in midfield.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's interesting. I was with Bastian Schweinsteiger yesterday, I interviewed him, and they got pumped off Barcelona. I don't know what year it was, but then they played them the year after and they beat them 7-0 over 2 legs.
Yeah.
And basically they had a meeting before the game, and they basically worked at Robin and Ribery with their wide players. And obviously Barcelona's midfield fullback sometimes would come into midfield, and they literally said to Robin and Ribery, just stand in central midfield with us, and we're just going to, how many players they have in there, we're just going to go have exactly the same number of players in there. And they ended up doing them in the end and counter-attacking off them. But we were quite open in midfield that game, weren't we?
Did you feel like they just had an extra player? I remember playing Spain loads of times.
3 or 4 players.
And I'd be like, I remember one point counting the players on the pitch. I was like, how have they got it was as if they had extra players.
I remember just standing there. I picked up the ball. It was a bit of a scuffle with Busquets, and I was late on. They were winning. I took the ball off him, and the referee blew the whistle, and he went, "You, Vidic, boom, boom, boom." I felt so belittled. I felt so like boom,
just smashing it.
I felt so just like I thought. I can't even. I almost laughed. I felt so embarrassed. I've never been so embarrassed on the pitch, and I remember standing after the game watching them go up to get the trophy. I think it was me, Giggsy, and Scholesy, and Wazza might have been there. And everyone does that now. I think we would have started that. Yeah. Like, let's get off this pitch. We've been embarrassed.
That's the problem when you play for a big club like United. You play Barcelona, you're on about you just do a wee play, but sometimes
you have to
it's
change.
Good. You have to change.
Yeah.
You're playing against these brilliant teams, and we've done it earlier. Barcelona used to toy with us, and we'd always play 4-4-2. So sometimes you look back and go, yeah, it's nice to be brave, but there's a fine line between brave.
Yeah. We beat Spain in the Euros, and we had 20% possession and they had 80, but we hit them on 2 counters. But if we hadn't played like that, we would have got absolute. So you do have to.
We'd done that in 2008, hadn't we?
Yeah, away.
Yeah.
We'd done it away.
Well, and you would.
No, we beat them in the semi-final in 2008. It wasn't Pep's team, but it was something similar. Scholesy scored the long-range goal. 1-0 over 2 legs,
And did they dominate possession?
Yeah, just a bit.
But I think that game, the tactics, we kind of played in both the games, both them finals, we played pressing really high.
Proactive, weren't we?
And our game around that time probably wasn't that against the big teams in Europe when we were playing, like Lyon away was a hard game back then, and other teams we used to play. We used to be a bit more solid.
Well, do you think it was something to do, because it's interesting this, I go back to the Champions League final, we played in 2005, but we did something different in that final that we'd done getting there, and I don't know if it's something to do. Speaking to Rafa afterwards, it was about, it's a one-off game, it's not a 2-leg. So sometimes when you go away, you go, OK, we're doing this, and then we're going to get them at home and we're going to do this. I didn't know if maybe it might be something to do with that in terms of it's a one-off game, it's a final, no one's home or away.
The boss is a maverick though as well. He smells something and just goes with it. You know what I mean? And that's what I think he was. And to be fair, his instincts were right, because in the first game in Rome, if you remember, we had 3 or 4 chances that we could have scored off them playing that, but us pressing really high. But once they got that goal, the game was dead.
Do you know what I think? We're thinking about him. I think that he thought of the game as being, this is my legacy.
Yeah.
And I think he thought, I need to win this the way that I play, and we're going to go and take on Barcelona, and we're going to go and sort of, if you like, because I think the year before when we beat them in the 2008 semi-final, I don't know if you remember, you talked about tactics before, about we never did anything different. Do you remember Carlos putting the mat?
Oh, yeah.
It's the only time I've ever seen a Manchester United coach. You talked about it before, and I thought about it. He put a mat on the pitch, like a rug. I don't know what it was. It was some sort of like...
The cones down.
Yeah, and he basically said to Scholes and to Carrick, who are in midfield, he said, one of you's always got to be stood there, right? And so basically, if anyone... And we did the most disciplined performance I've ever seen. He actually put Rooney and Ji-Sung Park, I think, in the wide areas. It was Scholes and Carrick in midfield. And basically, with this training for 2 days, even handball at times, because it was like in between games, where basically, let's say Carrick went over to this side, Scholes had to be literally on this mat. And they did it in the game for 180 minutes. It's the only time. But we were literally like...
Did it work?
Do you remember Arsenal?
It works because you win.
So it works when you get the right result.
Yeah.
Arsenal at City last week, it was exactly like that for 180 minutes, and then Scholes scores a worldie.
Yeah. Like protection. Are you going to go to DFS and drop a rug off a Karen?
For Sunday.
Yeah. I remember watching those games in 2009 and 2011 and being incredibly frustrated. And looking back as well, I don't necessarily... I'm not too fussed about the 2011 loss that Manchester United endured against that Barcelona side at Wembley, because by that point, you know, we had an ageing side and that Barcelona team was well in its stride. Messi was firing on all cylinders. I don't have any regrets whatsoever or any kind of gripe, because we were beaten by the better side, and that was that. But the turning point was in 2009. That's the one that I look back and I'm thinking, we were just unlucky in that particular game, because that 2009 team that Manchester United had, that consisted of Edwin van der Sar in the nets, Wes Brown, I think John O'Shea started that final, but anyway, it was John O'Shea or Wes Brown at right back, and then it was Vidic and Ferdinand and Evra in defence. And then if it was full strength, it would be Hargreaves, Fletcher, Carrick in midfield, and then up front, Rooney, Ronaldo and Tevez. That is the best team Manchester United have ever produced, without a shadow of a doubt. It beats the Holy Trinity side, it beats the 99 team all day, every day. But unfortunately, that team leading up to that 2009 final, because remember, Manchester United were European and world champions going into that final. That Manchester United team just couldn't get their full strength team for that 2009 final. Whereas Barcelona pretty much had their full strength. I think there was only Dani Alves that didn't play, but he was a good player, but maybe he did play, I'm not sure. I can't remember, to be honest. But I do remember Manchester United were missing two key players from their side in that final. And because of that Barcelona side ran rings round the midfield. And Rio's right in what he was saying. You know, we just couldn't touch them because they just kept hold of the ball. And Xavi and Iniesta and Busquets, they were masters at that. And Lionel Messi's the best of all time. So, you know, it is what it is. But I can't help but think that if Darren Fletcher didn't get that weird suspension from that stupid red card, which wasn't a red card, from the semi-final when he tackled Robin van Persie and gave away the penalty. But he didn't give away the penalty because it was a great tackle, but the referee thought it was a foul. It was just silly, and he got a straight red. Should have been overturned, and he should have played in that final. And if Owen Hargreaves didn't have bad knees and he played in that final, Xavi and Iniesta wouldn't have dominated the midfield like they ended up doing, because as good as they are on the ball and as good as they are keeping hold of the ball, Darren Fletcher had an engine, like, he had an engine that just kept on going and 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 going. And Owen Hargreaves, what a player he was. He was the same. These two guys were more than capable of dominating that midfield and getting the ball off Xavi and Iniesta, because it wasn't Messi that won the match, really. It was Xavi and Iniesta. They dominated midfield. And Manchester United just didn't have the legs for that game at that time. And yeah, I suppose a little bit of hubris from Alex Ferguson. If he just played it safe and just made sure he got the win, then that Man United team would have gotten over the line. Because I mean, hindsight is what it is. I mean, that Barcelona team, just like Pep's Man City team now, all you had to do was just sit back, play on the low block, and beat them on the counter. Because, well, I mean, Gerard Piqué didn't have any legs. Well, he had legs, clearly. He wasn't walking around on stumps or on pegs or anything like that. But he wasn't, point I'm making is, he wasn't known for his speed. So if you just had Rooney, Tevez and Ronaldo just sitting on the halfway line while that team just soaked up the pressure and sacrificed possession and just blitzed them on the counter, then, you know, we'd have won 2 in a row. And if we'd won 2 in a row, we'd have probably won 3 in a row. And if we won 3 in a row, probably would have won 4 in a row, because Ronaldo might have stayed a little bit longer than he ended up staying. But it's all hindsight. It's all hindsight. But yeah, I mean, a lot's made of that Barcelona side. And they are a great side, they were a great side, but they had a lot of luck. And the main luck that they had was they had a referee that didn't give Chelsea one penalty when they should have given them about 7 in the semi-final, because they always bullied that Barcelona side. They were almost like kryptonite to that Barcelona side because they were aggressive in midfield and they were great tacklers and they were big and they were strong and they used to bully them. So it was very hard for that Barcelona side to get past that Chelsea team. And they had them. Chelsea had them on the ropes, but they just didn't get the luck, and Barcelona got the luck. And it is what it is. And then obviously the red card for Fletcher, and then bad knees for Hargreaves. So I always like to think of if you're going to have two teams face off against each other in such a big game, I don't want any excuses. You know, I didn't have any excuses for the 2011 final. We just got beat fair and square. That was it. But in 2009, if that Barcelona team was at absolute full strength, and the Man United team was at absolute full strength, that would have been a different game. But anyway, what do you guys think? Am I talking absolute nonsense? I don't think so. I think I've given a very astute opinion there. But what do you think? I want to know what your astute opinion is. And if you've lasted this long in this video, then clearly you're interested in what I've got to say. So because of that, I'm very interested in what you've got to say. So tell me, what could Manchester United have done to have overcome that great Barcelona side back in that 2009 final? And if you've got any ideas of how they could have overcome them in 2011, I'm more than happy to hear that too. And what do you think of what the guys were saying there in the clip? I mean, are they talking nonsense or are they talking sense? But you tell me. See you in the comments.